Morning, guys. So before you start to write down your title and your lesson objective for the day, I haven't put the slide at the start, which is the thing that lists all of the important home learning notes. I am going to attach it with the homework though. So if you do need to clarify anything, there's been a couple of small changes. And I just want you guys to know it might be confusing. It's not me making the changes, it's the school making the changes, okay? So I have put a picture of a camera on the slide towards the end. That is the bit of work that I would like you to take a picture of and to send me on Show My Homework. You will be able to do that. Or you can email me that piece of work. All right. I'm expecting you guys to do the whole lesson because I know that you guys know the importance of history following a narrative. So it's kind of difficult to just pick out and do that last slide without looking at the stuff before it. And also, I know that you guys find this interesting. It is an interesting subject. So, I don't have any worries that you're not sat there doing the work. So let's just get straight into it. So title for today, Changes for Workers in Nazi Germany. And the lesson objective is to know what the Nazis did to reduce the unemployment. So if you just pause me here and press play when you're ready to move on. There's just a very brief starter here. What I want you guys to have a look at, okay, is this graph. So this is a graph of unemployment. So we did previously look at a graph about unemployment, but that was one we were looking at from 1928 to 1933. So we're now past that point, okay? We're starting now, we're on 1933. Hitler is now in charge of Germany. So 1933 is our start point. And this traces the unemployment from 1933 all the way up to 1939. So you can see the years are along the bottom and the number of unemployed, that is in millions, okay, is along going up the top there. So this is a simple bar graph. So what the two questions that I'd like you to think about, guys. So you have got, how did unemployment fare under Hitler? So have a look at what is happening to your bar graph from 1933 up to 1939, which was the outbreak of war. And how do you think he managed to make such an impact? So just jot down what you think are the answers to those questions. The second one is just a guess because we're going to look at that now. So, but you may know, you may be able to make an educated guess on how he managed to get the employment down to literally zero. All right, so have a think about it, pause me and press play when you're ready. Okay, so for that starter, guys, I'm hoping for the first question that what you should have got is that the unemployment declined. You could see that, okay? It was at nearly 7 million when Hitler came into power, and 6 years later in 1939, it's at almost zero, okay, which is amazing. So we're going to look at today how he did that. So the first thing that I would like you to do is to go back to your Show My Homework. You'll need to pause this, and there's a little clip there for you to watch called The Nazi Economic Miracle. Okay, so you should be able to find that and watch that and then come back when you are ready. All right, so the video that you just watched should have given you a little bit of an idea of the sort of things that Hitler did to reduce unemployment. So we're going to look at those in more detail. So the red boxes, you've got 3 different sources of information. Okay, you've got 2 that are from the time that we're studying, so 1938 and 1936, and then you've got the top one, which is from 1976. So obviously that's a bit more recent. So what I want you guys to think about, I'm not going to read the sources out to you. You are going to do that. So you are going to pause this in a moment. You're going to read through the sources. And what I would like you to do is have a think about question 1. So what do they suggest about the ways that Hitler achieved a reduction, which means less, reducing in unemployment? Okay, and there will be quotes there that will give you some examples. And then question 2, it explains the big source there on the right, talks about invisible unemployment. And I want you to see if you can try and explain that term to me. So pause the video, have a go at doing that. And when you're ready, press play. And the next slide, we're going to go through some of the answers to that. Okay, so pause me here. All right, so you can see what I've done here, guys, is that I've separated the 2 questions that you had into green and yellow. So if we look at the green one first, so the first question, what do they suggest about the ways Hitler achieved a reduction in unemployment? So if we look at the first source, pretty much that whole source is some evidence towards the sort of things that Hitler might have done. So Jews were excluded from professions such as teaching, medicine, and the law. Now you might be sat there thinking, but hang on, miss, that's contributing to the employment. That doesn't make any sense. No. So Jews were told they could not do those jobs. However, they still needed teachers, doctors, and people that worked in law. They just didn't want Jews to do it. So what happened was the Jews were just replaced with other people. Okay, so people that might have lost their job in the Depression and things like that, or so they were replaced. Okay, so that is reducing the unemployment. The second source, so you've got the green bit there, I've said he put them into the army or other kinds of forced service. All right, so he took unemployed men and put them into the army. Therefore, they're employed, they have a job, they do not sit on the unemployment figures. All right, and then you've got the right-hand side one. Ignore the yellow for a moment because we're going to talk about that in a second. But again, it's pointing out things that Hitler did to reduce unemployment. So the number of unemployed Jews was a lot, okay, but they weren't counted as unemployed. So he left them out of the figures. All right. Women whose husbands had a job, okay, they were left out of the figures because the women didn't need to work. So why would he include them in their figures? Okay, their job was to stay at home and have children. And then you've got any men that were unmarried under 25, they were left out of the unemployment figures. And part-time workers, they were counted as fully employed. So you've got a few different things there. You're starting to see that actually, where we looked at that graph at the start and you think, oh my goodness, Hitler did this amazing miracle where he got all these people. Actually, he didn't. What he did was leads us on to question 2, which is the invisible unemployment. All right. So unemployment should be based on the total number of people who are not working in that country. All right. Or in an area, but we're talking about the whole of Germany. So that's what unemployment should be based on, all right? It should be a total number of everyone not working, regardless of who they are, why they're not working. If they're not working, they're counted. Now, Hitler excluded Jews. He excluded the wives of employed men, men under 25, and he counted the part-timers as full-timers, okay? So in the unemployment figures, they became invisible. So that is what we mean by invisible unemployment. So they just weren't counted. So it might have looked like, and remember guys, this is what he is showing the people of Germany. These figures are being published, all right? Whereas actually, if they looked into the figures, they would see, well, hang on, it doesn't include any women. It doesn't include men under 25. There's no Jews included in this. So that is what we mean by invisible unemployment. And that was a really big thing that he did in order to sort of fudge the figures and make them look better than they were. Okay, guys, so this is where I'm going to leave you to just do a little bit of independent learning on your own, okay? The next 2 slides, so this slide, the National Labour Service, and the next slide, which is on job creation schemes. I want you to just have a bit of a read of the information, pause where you need to, okay? And then on the next slide after these 2, there are going to be a couple of questions to answer on it. It's not very heavy going, so I will say nothing on the next slide. You can pause me now, move on as you want to, and I'll see you on the question slide. So nothing too taxing here, guys, just a couple of questions. I want you to explain to me what the National Labour Service was and the key features of it, all right, and what sort of things were built due to the job creation schemes. If we were doing this in class, I would be asking you to do this from memory, okay? I am aware that you guys have the luxury of being able to just skip back in this video and have a little look, which is fine if you need to recap, but what I do need you to do is you need to write in your own words. Please don't just copy what is on the slide because that's not you learning anything. That's just you copying what I've written. Okay, so have a go at explaining it in your own words. And as always, the most important thing I would like you to do is to write in full sentences. So when you say, what was the National Labour Service? Your answer is not, it was. Your answer starts off as, the National Labour Service was. Okay, so please think about answering in full sentences because that is more important sometimes than the answer that you're going to give me. Okay, so just the same as before, guys, there's 2 slides of information here. and you need to read both of the slides of information, and then there are some questions on the next slide. So I won't say too much. However, on this slide, just bear in mind that the first set of bullet points, they are about the German Labour Front, and then the bullet points on the right, they're about the Volkswagen scheme, which is something that sort of came under the German Labour Front, all right, but it was a separate little scheme all of its own. So have a read this slide, the next slide, and I'll see you again on the question slide. All right, so you should have read the information on the previous two slides, okay? Exactly the same applies as before. Go back if you need to, but it'd be really great if you could do this from memory, all right? And you must be answering in full sentences. So question 1, I'm asking you to describe what the German Labour Front was. All right, so in your own words, tell me what it was. Question 2, I want you to describe the Volkswagen scheme and the problems that it had. All right. 3, I want you to think about why did Hitler set up compulsory military service? For anyone who isn't sure what the word compulsory means, it means something that you have to do. You don't get a choice. All right, so it is compulsory for you guys to come to school when there isn't a global pandemic going on, obviously. All right, you must come into school and there are consequences if you don't. Question 4, how did this affect the unemployment figures? All right, so that military service, what effect did that have on unemployment? And then question 5, Hitler built up the army. How did that help to create jobs? So if you imagine what a typical soldier needs and what an army needs, how did that help to create jobs? Answer in full sentences, guys. Okay, so we've only got a couple more slides left. I'm just going to talk you through this one. All right, so it was the strength through joy, in brackets, the KDF. Okay, so basically what the Strength Through Joy program was is it tried to improve the leisure time. And I said to you guys before, leisure time is, for you as a student, is any time from 3 o'clock until when you go to bed. So it's anything you might do in your own time. All right, so for workers, it's any time that they are not working. That is considered their leisure time, all right? So he tried to improve the leisure time of German workers by sponsoring a range of leisure and cultural trips. Cruises went off to the Canary Islands and the Norwegian fjords, and cheap holidays were offered in Italy. And this gave workers access to activities that would normally have been reserved for the better off people, the more well off, the wealthier people in society, okay? So trips to Italy and things like that. All right, so have a look at the graph on the right hand side. So you can see there the number is in millions, and it says official figures from the Nazi Party. Obviously, we have to be a little bit dubious about what the Nazi Party are producing in terms of figures, as we've looked at this lesson. All right, but that shows the number of people taking part in the activities that they put on for them. All right, and these would be free, so they wouldn't have to pay for these things, or they'd be massively subsidised, so they get a huge discount on them. Okay, you've got hikes, holidays, films, so going to see a film, basically cinema trips, exhibitions, concerts, operas, theatre, variety shows, popular entertainments, various different sporting activities, you know, football and things like that, and other activities. So a lot, okay, was put on through the Strength Through Joy programme, with basically the idea being that the stronger person is created because they have joy in their life. All right. So what I want you to do, you can see there's a little link there. It's only brief, and it just shows one of the parades that the Strength Through Joy programme put on. Okay, go back to pause me, go back to show my homework and watch that link, and I will see you on the next slide. All right, so we're very nearly there, guys, and I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you about invisible unemployment. Okay, so Hitler used some dodgy methods to keep down the unemployment figures. We know the official figures didn't include Jews that were dismissed from their jobs, all right, which were then filled by non-Jews, as we said, okay. Unmarried men under 25, they had to join the National Labour Service Scheme. So one of those schemes that we already looked at, all right, so they were made to join that, therefore they're no longer unemployed. Women were dismissed from their jobs, or they gave up work to get married. Those jobs were then filled by men, all right, bringing down the unemployment figures. And then the women themselves aren't being counted in the unemployment figures anyway. Anyone against the Nazi regime who was in a concentration camp, they were not counted. All right, and we know that he was putting large numbers of people into camps. All right, anyone that spoke out against him, so they weren't counted. They were invisible on the unemployment figures. And then you've got the part-time workers being listed as full-time workers. By 1939, the number of unemployed men in Germany was listed as 35,000 people. All right, and that's out of a workforce of 25 million. So you can see there that perhaps the Nazi figures, we can see they've done some underhand tactics in order to get to those impressive looking figures. And then I just want to draw your attention to this fab photo that I found. You know, Adolf, you shouldn't tell lies. I've never seen a picture of Adolf Hitler in shorts. All right, this is a terrifying picture to me that he is wearing shorts and also knee-length socks. And how often do you see a picture of that in Hitler in shorts? You don't. All right, he's covering up the truth. Okay, just like he did with his invisible unemployment. So that's why I just thought that was a good picture there, because you're bound to remember that picture, and I hope it's burned into your memory now forevermore. So the next task we've got is the plenary, which is the task that I'm going to ask you to take the photo of and send to me, and then you are done. So final plenary, I just want to know from you guys, of all of the policies that Hitler introduced, which is everything you've looked at on those slides today, the labour service, the job creation schemes, the military service, the German Labour Front, and that Strength Through Joy programme. So of all those things that he introduced to deal with unemployment, what do you think was the best and why? All right, so I've given you a sentence starter. I think the most useful employment policy that Hitler introduced was, then you're going to tell me which one, okay? And then you're going to give me some evidence, and then you're going to explain it. So you're using the PEE method, all right? But just have a go, tell me what you think. And this is the one that I would like you to send me, all right? So you take a photo of your answer for this one, and you send it to me.